Now, today we're going to take a journey through assertiveness and emotional intelligence. Now, I've been facilitating this session face-to-face for a few years now. The sessions are oftentimes loud and lively and always highly interactive. In our classroom, it was just us, a flip chart, a short worksheet, and some props. We would discuss, consider, laugh, giggle, and role play. But now, given the COVID-19 situation, the workshop has been adapted for a virtual experience. Now, this workshop has been informed by amazing research. Your handouts will include some of these references. And it has also been informed by the brilliant questions, answers, and feedback of the students. My flip chart was not only used to present course material, but also to write out and preserve our classroom answers. And you're going to hear some of those answers today. I want to definitely encourage you to answer today's questions in some way, whether in the chat box or you kind of jot them down to yourself, maybe mumble them to yourself. But this back and forth interaction has been a real key to this workshop. And I personally would love to hear your answers. And as you heard, I call it the wisdom of the people. After the presentation, I will be checking the chat box for questions and answers. Okay, so let's jump in. Our objective for today is to enhance our ability to communicate comfortably and effectively with all kinds of people, including criminals. Now, I often ask my students, is effective communication even important? What do you think? One week, a student said, communication is everything. At work, at home, everywhere. And I thought, wow, that is true. Okay, so what does Harvard University have to say about the significance of emotionally intelligent communication? The research from Harvard Business School actually demonstrated that emotional intelligence counts for twice as much as IQ and technical skills in determining who will be successful. Emotional intelligence is more important than how smart you are or how good you are at your job when it comes to being successful. Now, our agenda for today is pretty simple. First, we're going to talk about assertiveness, then emotional intelligence. We're going to talk about an amazing benefit of emotional intelligence. And then finally, we will conclude our session. And as I may have mentioned, I will also be providing some bonus material that you can look over, including an outline of this presentation. Okay, number one, assertiveness. To assert something is to state a fact or belief clearly and directly. So let's talk about the assertive person. Do you know an assertive person? Someone that is direct in their communication? If you do, what is that assertive person like? Okay, well, I'm going to share some sample student answers from the classroom. Students have said these things. The assertive person is confident, straightforward, direct, ready to engage with others, not passive, not aggressive, well-spoken, under control of their emotions. They have a backbone and will stand up for themselves. They're empathetic and think about others. They're productive and achieve their goals. And they are aware. Okay, so as we look at these characteristics, we can ask ourselves a question. Is it good to be assertive? Is this a good thing? Now, we're not face to face today, but in every class that I've ever had, my students have agreed that yes, it is a good thing to be assertive. Now, assertiveness is actually a spectrum. There is not just one level of assertiveness. So let's say we're right here in the middle of the assertiveness spectrum, and we have the assertive person. Yes, I know this is a leading graphic. The little thing is smiling. But how do you think an assertive person feels on the inside? Someone that can freely speak their mind and communicate with other people. What might they feel like? Okay. Here are some sample student answers from the classroom. They say that this person might feel balanced, confident inside, free. One week there was a gentleman who was on the passive end, and he kept using the word free for this person, free to communicate and just be themselves. Relaxed. Someone said edges on fleek. And I said to the young lady, I said, what is edges on fleek? And she said, you know how it is when the girls have their baby hair all laid down. So for her, it's a sharp, their environment. And I thought that was an interesting way to put it. Just feeling there, just being there, feeling good about life and just kind of just cruising along. Someone said, more than one person has said that they're goal-oriented. They're resilient and bounce back from setbacks. They are aware. They're also empathetic and they think of others. Now, if you were to do additional study of assertiveness, you'd probably come across the idea that this person shoots for the win-win in any relationship. They're not looking for you to abuse them, and they're not going to abuse you. They want to win, and they want you to win as well. Now, in class, I oftentimes ask folks, how would you feel if you knew someone that always wanted to win and always wanted you to win? I'd like to hear your answers to that question. They always wanted to win and they always wanted you to win. I've gotten a variety of answers in response to that question. I've had people say, I would love them. I would trust them. I would be inspired by them. They go on and on telling what that person might mean to them. Being an assertive person, because you're seeking the win-win, it can result in a series of memorable and mutually satisfying relationships with other people. Now, as we look at this section right here, I believe that this is the region of power and influence that Harvard University was talking about in that quote we just saw. The Harvard University research said that the emotionally intelligent person has a very, very high chance of success. It's more important than your technical skills, more important than your IQ. Being balanced and assertive and direct is where it's at. Okay, so let's go to another place on the spectrum. The underassertive person, the person that is not direct. How might this person feel on the inside? Here are some answers from the classroom. They've said they're passive on the inside, they don't speak up. They're scared on the inside or scared to say no. Maybe they feel sad, insecure, don't ask for what they want, needs often not met because they won't speak up, maybe nervous and self-conscious, hesitant to answer because they're scared what someone might think, and people pleaser. So the assertive person is shooting for the win-win, but the passive person or the underassertive person is often shooting for the lose-win. They let everybody else, win, and they expect to lose. So even if someone says something that they don't like, they won't say anything. They will just accept the loss. This is where I was. I was on the passive end. Before assertiveness training, I didn't even know that I was a person with rights. There were so many things that I did that I didn't want to do. But there is hope for anyone that may be on this end. Okay, so now let's go to the overassertive person. What is this person like, the overassertive person? Here are some sample student answers. Aggressive, bully, self-centered, inconsiderate and thoughtless. They don't care about people's feelings. Controlling, angry. One person who was in class, it was so nice that she shared with us. She said that she was aggressive, and she says, I feel rejected inside. Rejected. Someone said that they overcompensate and because they're insecure. Maybe they say no a little more loudly than they have to. We can say no without being aggressive, but they haven't found that balance yet. For these people, life can be like a long series of conflicts and aggressions. Okay, so while the assertive person is seeking the win-win and the passive person is seeking the lose-win, what do you think that the aggressive person is seeking? They are going to seek the win-lose. They want to win every time, no matter what, and everybody else lose. Okay, so is there no hope for the aggressive? Well, I once had a short conversation that provided a lot of insight. One day, someone in class said, I used to be like that, talking about being aggressive. The person said, I had a rough childhood, but one day I said, I'm tired of being mean to people, because that's how that person dealt with life. They were just mean to people. And they said, I'm tired of being mean to people. I'm going to start smiling and acting nice to people. And so I thought that was really interesting. I said, well, did your feelings eventually come along? And that person said, yes. So this is an example of someone on the aggressive end, just kind of getting tired of the whole thing of being mean, and actually came along. And if you met this person, you would never imagine that they had ever been aggressive. Okay, now I have a question. If assertiveness means direct, where do little children fall on this spectrum before the environment gets to them? When they're small, let's say 2 years old or 3 years old, where do they fall? I submit that they are perfectly assertive. If you say to little Johnny, Johnny, do you want this? He will tell you, no, I want that. It's clear sailing. They have no problem telling you what they want. They're perfectly assertive. They're not being passive and they're not being aggressive. They're just telling you what they want. We want our children to keep this natural assertiveness and directness. We want them to keep their voice. in confidence. If we are harsh and critical with our children and controlling every little thing they do, every little thing they say, while their personality is forming, that can drive a person to shutting down and being passive or to fighting back and being aggressive. Our little buddies have an outside that is growing and developing, and they also have an inside personality that is forming and developing. We want them to grow up confident. Okay, so are these people stuck here being underassertive and overassertive? Do they have to stay like this? Every class that I've ever said no, they are not stuck. Okay, so if the underassertive person does not speak up for themselves, what do they need to start doing? They need to speak up. But what if they're scared to speak up? Well, scared and afraid, they're just emotions. It's just an emotion. Scared is not like a piece of bread. You can't slice a piece of scared. It's not a substance. So when we feel afraid, we can just suspend judgment on scared. We can just put scared to the side so that we can see clearly what we need to say. We can think about why we're scared later on. But for me, I almost never want to figure out why I was scared. I end up forgetting that I was scared in the first place. We can suspend judgment on scared or on any strong emotion. Let me give an example. One day, I really didn't feel like going to work. There was nothing wrong with me, but I just didn't want to. But then I was like, no, suspend judgment on I don't feel like it. I need this job. So I went ahead and I got dressed for the day, drove down the road, got to the office. Hey, how you all doing? And I just kept on moving and ended up forgetting all about I don't feel like it. Now, one week, when I told this story, somebody said, Miss Tracy, you have to suspend judgment? I said, oh, yes. I said, as long as we live, we'll have emotions and feelings that will arise, and we must manage them or they will manage us. If I have to suspend judgment 15 times in a day, I will. But I find that it doesn't work like that. To me, I find that the brain accepts suspend judgment, and suspending judgment becomes more automatic. I've had many people who've come through this class come back months later and tell me that they're still using suspend judgment and telling folks all over the place about it. Okay, so we suspended judgment on scared. Okay, so what about the overassertive person? We've said that this person is not stuck and they're rather aggressive. So what is it that they need to do to come more to the middle ground? These are some answers from the classroom. I oftentimes hear folks say they need to calm down and chill out. They need to listen to others. And somebody said they need to speak less. But what if a person feels angry as soon as somebody wants to speak? Well, angry, again, is just an emotion. They can suspend judgment on angry. Just put it to the side. Pause for a second and think about what the person has just said and then respond. Studies show that oftentimes strong emotions like fear, anger, and others can really mess us up. Emotions can decrease our ability to reason by 75%. Emotions can mess up our decision-making ability. And emotions have the power to override rational thought. It is good to slow down and suspend judgment when we are feeling emotional. As I said, many students from this class come back even months later talking about the vital impact of suspending judgment on strong emotion so that they can make clear, rational decisions. Okay, I often ask my classes, do you have a favorite car? And everybody tells me their dream car, like, oh, Tesla, Chrysler 300, a fancy SUV, and so on. Now, me, I'm not really into cars, but the first time that I saw the Dodge Challenger in a mauve color, I basically thought, that is the baddest car ever. Okay, so let's say that for some reason, we all had to get a new car, and it had to be your favorite vehicle. Okay, so let's say I'm going to the dealership to get my Challenger. Should I go to the dealership like this? Oh, joy, joy. I'm going to get a Challenger. I'm going to get a Challenger. Should I? Should I go in there feeling that happy? And if I shouldn't, why shouldn't I go in there like that? My students consistently tell me, no, Miss Tracy, you don't need to do that. You need to calm down because they're going to take advantage of you. And yes, they're right. Once again, I need to suspend judgment on happy. Just put it to the side so that I can see clearly. If I go in there too happy and emotional, I may not see that the odometer says 250,000 miles on it. I may not see the rip in the leather in the back seat. I may not see that the tread on the tires is worn out and bald. I may not see that the interest rate on the paperwork is 25%. I need to suspend judgment on the emotion so that I can see clearly. Okay, so are you assertive? This is where we take the little assertiveness quiz in class. And then sometimes after we take the assertiveness quiz, some students feel pretty assertive, and that's grand. But then I'll ask them about their family. And I'll say, well, are you always assertive and direct with your family? And then I'll usually hear something like, well, my mother does always want to cut out of my taxes. Or my sister always says, your nephew needs some new shoes. Or my baby's father makes demands that I don't want to do. And so on and so on. So then at this point, we take about 10 minutes to practice saying no. And what I've seen in my class is that many, maybe most students have a real problem with saying no, even in our classroom role plays. But to be assertive, we must be able to say no and stand up for ourselves in a calm, balanced way. Now, when we're in the classroom, we're using props and I'm asking questions and I'm in your face. So for this virtual presentation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a series of questions. You don't have to put it in the chat box. You can, but I suggest that you will answer each question. And the object is to answer no. Okay? The object is to tell me no to every question that I ask. You can put it in the chat box or maybe say it aloud where you are or whatever feels right for you. Because we're not face-to-face right now, you may not feel the pressure of having to tell me no. But the goal of the exercise is just to practice saying no to people when you mean no. Not in an aggressive way, just saying no and going on about your business. Okay, let's do it. Excuse me, can I have this ring? Can I borrow $500? Will you take me to the airport? My husband wants to sleep in. Can I have some of your tax refund? Will you watch my 8 kids again this weekend? Can I have $20 for bus fare? You greedy. Come on. Let me have it. Okay. But somebody might say, but Tracy, what if I'm scared to say no? Okay, remember that scared is just an emotion. So, what can we do when we feel a strong emotion like scared? We can suspend judgment on scared. Put it to the side so that we can see clearly and we can say what we need to say and just go forward with our day. Nobody gets up in the morning to go back and forth. No, yes, no, yes, no, yes. Mm-mm. We're going to suspend judgment on scared and say what we have to say and go forward with our day. But I feel mean. Sometimes people, when we're doing the no exercise, I'm telling you, it's a big stir in the classroom when we do the no exercise. And some people will say, but I feel mean when I tell people no. So then I'll ask them, would you do that to somebody else? Keep asking them for something that you know they don't want to give you? And my students always tell me, no, I wouldn't do that. I say, so should you let a robber have your things? And then again, they tell me, no, I shouldn't let a robber have my things. Being a people pleaser and feeling like the world's happiness rests on you being a doormat is a passive stance. Okay, that's where I came from. It's a passive stance. It took me too long to realize that I am not public property. We can tell people no, and they can tell us no. It's a free country. We all have rights. Okay? But what if they won't take no for an answer? I personally stop talking because now they're moving into the region of disrespect. So I stop talking about that particular thing and I go back to what I call hunting antelope. Let me explain. I received an email and it was about a lion, a field mouse, and an antelope. The email said that a lion can catch and eat a field mouse, but it requires so much effort for so little meat that the lion would starve to death if he tried to live off of field mice alone. But if that same lion hunts down an antelope, then it might require more strength and more power, but it would be suitable food for him, and he can satisfy his hunger, and it would be enough for his whole family. Okay, so what does that mean for us? The email basically said that we have a lot of choices about what we're going to do and how we're going to spend our time. And a lot of stuff is just not that important. Sometimes I'll look at a situation or a comment someone said, and I'll think, I don't need to worry about that. That's a field mouse. So I don't worry about it. I just go back to hunting my antelope, my goals. We can conserve our energy for suitable activities. So when someone disrespects me, I stop talking and go back to hunting my antelope, my goals, even if my goal is to finish washing the dishes. Did you know that other people are like you? They have their own needs, wants, fears, and desires, emotions just like you, even criminals. One time I was at a workshop with a SWAT team member. He was a law enforcement officer, and he told us that during a crime, emotions are running high for the police and for the criminals. During a shooting, only a small percentage of shots hit their target because the emotions are so high. Now, one week during this assertiveness class, I was telling stories of people who successfully reached out to criminals who were committing a crime. Now, I'm not telling anybody to do that, but I was just talking about these stories. And when I had finished my stories one week, a lady said, I did that. So I said, okay, tell us your story. She said, I was working in a convenience store, and the store manager sent me and another girl into the front of the store to work. I was new to this country at that time. I didn't know what a gang was, but the customers began to stand back from the counter. And then a man put $5 on the counter and began asking the girl behind the cash register for more things, more than what $5 would pay for. And I was also behind the counter, but I was arranging the cigarettes. But he kept on asking her for things. So then I turned to him and I said to him, are you trying to rob your sister? She's poor. My brother, you're not supposed to rob your sister. You're supposed to protect your sister. And she said that he said to her, he said, nobody has ever called me brother. I was always told that I would be no good. I'm just out here doing what I feel I have to do. And she said, so then he turned around and he told all the gang members, he said, bring your stuff up here now and pay for it, all of it. And then he looked up at the store camera because he knew the store manager was hiding and watching. And he said, and you, get up here. How dare you send these women out here to deal with us? She said that after that day, the man would come into the store and ask for her. He would say, is my sister here? And they would talk if she was there. She said that the last time that she saw him, he told her, I always wanted to be a counselor. I want to go to school to be a counselor. And she told him that he could do it. She said that she never saw him again because she moved on to a new job. Okay. Now, when we start talking about how to flow with people, then we have moved into a discussion of emotional intelligence. Now, although there are different approaches to teaching emotional intelligence, if you were to look up emotional intelligence on the internet, or anywhere really, you would probably come across the word empathy. Now, empathy is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and think about how they might feel. Let's do a quick empathy exercise. Let's say that a person works in a homeless shelter and a man came through the door. How might an empathetic shelter worker think and respond? A, I wonder what he wants. Sign in and take a seat over there. Or B, person thinks, he may not be feeling well. Hi, how can we help you today? The answer is B. The empathetic worker not only does their job, but they also think about the state of other people. Emotional intelligence is really interesting because we are actually paying attention to other people so that we can see and know the best way to communicate with them. We're paying attention. Did you know that not everybody thinks like you do? I did not know that. I did not. I thought we all saw things the same way. I mean, I knew there was a difference in opinion, but there are actual thinking styles. Okay, there are 4 basic personality types and thinking styles. Okay, each personality type has its own way of thinking and seeing things. We do not all see the world the same way, not even our own children. People can't help how they think. It is just how they are. We all have our own way of thinking and viewing the world. But we can empathize and effectively communicate with people that see things differently than we do. As I said before, with emotional intelligence, we can actually observe people to see what their personality type seems to be. And then we can communicate with them based on their personality type. This is a powerful communication strategy because you are speaking their language and they feel understood and they are engaged with you because you're engaged with the way that they are thinking and with what they're interested in. Now, we're going to look at these 4 personality types. None of them is wrong. Each personality type is just a way of seeing things. Each personality type has its pros and its cons. Now, as we go through these 4 personality types, I would like you to think about which one you are. Okay? So let's take a look at the 4 personality types. The first personality type is the director. The director likes to get things done. He or she likes to finish and complete things. He'll finish a project and he's off to the next one. On a ship, the director might be the captain. And he's going to say, this ship is going to London. I don't care that we had pork chops last night for dinner. We must get to London. The director does not have to be a captain. The director does not have to be a manager. A director personality can be a receptionist. The director is just the kind of person that has a strong drive to get things done. Okay. The director is task-oriented. They want to complete the task. So if you want to flow well with a director personality, you should understand that this person wants to finish their projects. Don't ask him about ordering pizza on Monday morning for breakfast. Give him the report that he asked for. The next personality type we're going to look at is the analyzer. What do you think that an analyzer might be like? Well, the analyzer is about the facts. This person wants everything to be exact. They are so exacting that sometimes they can get lost in the details. Sometimes people might call them a wet blanket because they question everything. Okay? But this is a great person to have on your team because they're going to make sure those facts are taken care of. The analyzer is also task oriented and is very interested in the data. So if you want to flow well with an analyzer, have your facts and be able to substantiate what you are saying. Next, we have the relator. The relator is people oriented. When I think about the relator, I think about the word relationships. They are typically really good listeners and ready to spend time with you. And again, they're about people. I remember one time I was at an emotional intelligence class and I met a stewardess. And she said to me, she said, I'm a relator. She said, if somebody comes up to me and just starts talking business, I will say to them, but you didn't say hi. And she said it just like that. You didn't say hi, you know. And so that was so cute because she's about the relationship. So if you want to flow well with a relator, remember the relationship. You know, if you're a director type, you might forget to say hi because you're so busy with your project. Stop and take some time to say hi to the relator and ask about the grandkids. Next, the next personality type we're going to talk about is the entertainer. What do you think the entertainer personality is like? This young man reminds me of my little brother. And even though he is an accountant, he is definitely an entertainer. What do you think the entertainer personality is like? Well, some students describe the entertainer as the class clown and somebody that likes to be the center of attention. I know my brother would definitely fit the class clown part. He'll have you cracking up. But one student said, this person keeps you alive. I was like, wow, that's deep. And it's true. There have been times when people have walked out of fatal conditions because of the entertainers' jokes and stories. They kept their spirits up, you know, walking out of Arctic conditions when they should have died. Now, like the relator, the entertainer is also people-oriented. With the entertainer, giving them some attention, you know, and an honest compliment here and there, not to say that they all want an honest compliment, but some do, might go a long way. Okay, so there you have it. Those are the 4 basic personality types. Now, most of us cycle through all of these personality types at some time or another, but each of us tends to fall into a dominant personality type. What is your personality type? Okay. You want to do a secret and let me know? You can, or just kind of just think about it to yourself. That's fine. Okay. And what about each of your children? Which one are they? Because they certainly don't have to have our personality type and may very well not have our personality type. Their personalities may still be developing, but do you see them falling into any of these categories? How might your relationship with them improve if you know their personality types and ways of seeing things? Wow, I wish I had known this when I was raising up my daughter. Things would have been a whole lot different because I couldn't see why she wanted to memorize all the license plates in the parking lot at the grocery store. And I would say, don't do that. Well, you know, if that's what she wanted to do, but okay, so I won't get off, but I'm just saying we can have understanding about ourselves and the people around us and accept them for who they are. An important part of emotional intelligence is observing people. okay, and observing ourselves and our emotions and being able to manage them and to manage our relationships with all the personality types. Emotional intelligence is actually a skill. Now, I want to quickly mention that there is a dark side to emotional intelligence training. Some people actively use this information to take advantage of people. But of course, that's not what we're doing here. Okay, we're learning so that we can understand ourselves and relate to people better. Okay, so not everybody's going to appreciate your efforts to reach out and to flow very well with all the personality types. That's their option. Okay, it's a free country. That's how I look at it. That's just how they feel about that. But many people will respond to you. And that is what I believe the Harvard University research was talking about. Being able to flow with the personality types, not trying to put people in a box so that they have to think exactly the way that you do. Okay, quick quiz. Do you remember the 4 personality types? This will be in your handouts, but do you remember? Okay, let's do a quick review. Director, analyzer, relator, and entertainer. Okay, number 3. There is an amazing benefit of emotional intelligence. According to the Southwest Institute of Emotional Intelligence, if you have a high level of emotional intelligence, you work in a sanctuary, a holy place, a place that welcomes your soul. Self-awareness, what we're calling assertiveness, is the foundational competency of emotional intelligence. Okay? So when we're comfortable speaking and being direct and being empathetic, all of that, that's going to form the foundation of emotional intelligence. You work in a sanctuary. Sometimes I'll ask students, why does it say a sanctuary? What do you think? And they'll say, it's a safe place. Inside, it's safe. You have peace. You have freedom. You understand yourself. You have an understanding of how other people work. And those are some of the answers that they've given. Very, very insightful answers. And I hope that you all have used the chat box, but if not, I still appreciate you being here, and I'm looking forward to your questions and our discussion. So you work in a sanctuary. That is a benefit of emotional intelligence. So now we're here at number 4, our conclusion. Now, studies indicate that as we walk in assertiveness and emotional intelligence, we can expect to grow in power, in influence, and even in happiness. Okay, now someone might say, well, how do I start? Sounds good, but how do I start? Well, I say start simple and do 2 things. Number 1, say no when you mean no. Number 2, shoot for the win-win with the people that you encounter. Now, I've included some handouts for today, and I'm going to share those with you. Some handouts that you might find useful for your journey. They include an outline of this presentation and a few other things, such as the 4 pillars of emotional intelligence. Now, in that particular handout, it's going to show how we touched on all 4 pillars of emotional intelligence today Okay, we hit all 4 of those in a very practical way. Okay, in the next screen, you're going to see some of the references used for this presentation, and then we'll be looking at the chat box and we'll answer any questions or comments that you might have. That's the little handout with emotional intelligence, the 4 pillars of emotional intelligence, and how we address those today. Here are the references. Okay, so that's it for the PowerPoint presentation. Now we'll take a look at any questions or comments that you might have.
Tracy, I just want to say thank you. You did an amazing job. I took a lot of notes. I'm one of those passive people. So I liked a lot of the tips, and I really liked the way you talked about how it feels on the inside when you're assertive and how it feels when you're passive. And I like the things about the relator and the analyzer and the director and those types. Does anybody have questions? I'm looking in the chat or comments.
Oh, yeah, I see one, and it's a good one. How? Oh, okay, it disappeared from me. Okay, let me see if I can open up my. It said, all breakout rooms will close in 49 seconds. Oh, my. Oh, okay. How do you handle it? Okay, so let's say it's family. For me, it's the stoplight. Because I have a mother that's very, I guess I shouldn't be saying that, but dominant. Stoplight. When I see we're moving into the region of disrespect, let me finish up these dishes. It doesn't have to be, I don't have to look at you in the face. I don't have to act like I'm brave. It's like, here are your papers. And I just move on to the next thing that I was going to do. I don't have to act like I'm brave and all these things. No, I just move on. Because I said no. I said what I wanted to say, and so I'm done with it.